Welcome to When Laid Off, Paid Off, Redundancy Success Stories. Coming up in this episode.
I got qualified, a bit like going back to school and the assessments and the testing again. So it was a little bit, like, oh my God, here we go again.
Have you got clarity about what it is you want to do so that you can kind of really hone down what it is about those particular roles that appeal to you?
You're watching When Laid Off, Paid Off, the show about providing you with positive stories and lessons to help you find the silver lining if you're struggling with challenges and uncertainty surrounding redundancy. I'm your host, Batchelor, and I'm a presenter, content producer, and TEDx curator. And I'm on a mission to help people find and express their passion and purpose. This episode comes to you in partnership with Heads Up HR. This episode's story comes from bikeability instructor Jane Bradley, who had feelings that she wasn't good enough and that she was giving up by accepting redundancy. Coming up later in the show, we'll hear from HR expert Nick Hawley, who'll be sharing with us his insight into finding a role which not only suits your skills, but also your preferred way of working. But first up, let's hear Jane's story.
Hello, my name's Jane, and I'm just doing this short presentation to explain to you the positives that I got after being taking voluntary redundancy. I was basically working in a local school, and I'd been there for over 20 odd years, and management had changed, things had changed, and I felt I wanted to change. I had the opportunity to take voluntary redundancy, which I took. At first it was a bit scary because I'd always, tried to take the hard path, always make work hard at trying to achieve and be successful at something. So actually taking redundancy kind of gives the impression that you weren't good enough or that they were going to get rid of you. So I kind of had to get over that fear. So basically, I looked at the plan, looked at the next couple of years and thought, well, in 4 or 5 years, basically I could take my pension early. And although I'd lose a bit of money, I'd had a bit of a buffer, a bit of money. And also the redundancy money gave me a little bit of buffer to have the time to look at other things. And I took that opportunity. I got the voluntary redundancy. Again, a bit scary, but also I felt really excited about it because now was my chance to do something different. I was lucky to have the opportunity and the time to do quite a lot of research in the areas that I was interested in. So I looked at swimming, for example, as a swimming coach, something I had done before. But that didn't kind of fit in, not the hours didn't fit in, I suppose wasn't really enough money for that either. Now luckily I had a friend who was teaching bikeability. I knew my passion, I had a passion for biking, did a lot of biking. And so for me this was really worth looking into. So I rang her up, talked to her, found out how to get trained and the whole scenario of it. And I just became really excited by all that. So that's exactly what I did. I got qualified. Bit like going back to school and the assessments and the testing again. So it was a little bit, like, oh my God, here we go again. But you know what, after that, once I was qualified, I really, really enjoy the work that I do because it takes in all the aspects of the work, the teaching I love. You get a result, an immediate result. You get to work with the children. You get all the different personalities, but at the same time, you don't necessarily have all the politics and the marking after school and things like that. So for me, it was perfect. So really, for my message to anybody thinking, oh my God, it's uncertain, it's almost just do it. Okay, it's easy to say that. Do your research first. Talk to people. Find out. If you're interested in, say, swimming, talk to people that teach swimming. Find out how, what they had to do to be qualified. So my message to anybody that is in this situation, is uncertain, is that there is other jobs, that is another life from the type of work that you used to do. I used to think that teaching was the only thing, but I found now that there are different forms of teaching, different ways, and I'm really, really enjoying the work that I do. and I don't have loads of marking as well, which is fantastic. So good luck to anybody, and thank you very much.
What I loved from what we heard from Jane was how she discovered the huge breadth and potential of her profession. She loved her job, but even though she wasn't able to offer it in its traditional form, she was able to find new ways of doing the skills and the experiences that she really loved. I also really like how Jane seemed really proactive about speaking to people that were already in the role, enabling her to not only find out about the role, but also the culture of the company that she was looking to move into. Next up, we'll hear from HR expert Nick Hawley from Heads Up HR to see what he thinks of Jane's story and what advice he'd give people in a similar situation. Nick, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
It's my pleasure, and it's good to be with you.
So in Jane's story, we heard about her talking about a different and alternative styles and approaches to doing essentially the same role. It was always teaching, but in a different kind of environment. And this enabled her to do more of what she liked and less of the bits that she didn't like, which is ultimately the dream, right? But what would your advice be then to people, not necessarily just in teaching, in any profession, who want to maybe move away from the traditional 9 to 5 and find different ways of doing the same work?
I think my view on this is, redundancy very often is a pivotal moment for people to really appraise what they've done and what they'd like to do moving ahead. I'm working with a psychologist at the moment, Dr. Dan Harrison, who provides an assessment that helps look at what people enjoy about their work. And if you get 75% of a role that is fulfilling and engaging, and you're building those elements into the role, you're going to be far more productive. You're going to get better at what you do. You're going to enjoy the things that you want. So actually constructing the opportunities around things you enjoy doing and kind of leaving those things aside that you don't enjoy doing is quite a critical thing in your planning. And I think you just got to think through what is it that floats your boat? What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning, as opposed to the kind of mundane stuff that you might have been used to in a previous role? Yeah,
definitely. And how much would you say this element of there's the work, isn't there, and the content of the work we do, but also the environment? Are you having to commute, and are you having to travel, or can you work from home? I think those are often important elements, aren't they, to how we can get the best out of ourselves, even if what we're actually doing doesn't change. Is there much people can do to influence that, or kind of put themselves in the right route that's right for them?
Well, again, I think it's thinking about the kind of work environments that you can flourish in. And I think what we've seen with the pandemic is that, the home working that's been introduced, the reduction in the time spent travelling on commutes and so on, has actually proved far more productive in many, many different environments and different sectors, so that people are not travelling, an hour and a half to 2 hours a day, wasting their time. They can actually get on with the work. And, evidence is suggesting that they're, sort of more productive in that situation. And I think you've got to, you tended to find a lot of people, with Zoom, you're living in people's front rooms. You're actually starting to see a human side of people at work as well. And I think that's a very, very powerful sort of choice to be able to make. And clearly finding a role that will allow you to do those sort of things, I think, is critical to how you move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting you say that, like the choice, you make in a role, because I think that's part of what, we're used to looking at. Have I got the skills and the am I happy with the responsibilities? But it's equally, am I happy with the way of working? Is a really important thing, isn't it? Brilliant. So Jane's something also that seemed like she got a lot of value in terms of her finding her new role that was right for her, kind of came from speaking to other people that were already doing the same or similar roles. But, ultimately I understand that obviously a lot of people are not going to be able to know someone who's doing their ideal dream job. So what would you advise people in terms of finding and having the courage to actually go out and speak to those people that are doing the job you want to do, even if you don't know them?
I think it's first of all a question of, have you got clarity about what it is you want to do, so that you can kind of really hone down what it is about those particular roles that appeal to you. And then, for me, getting onto LinkedIn, starting to develop your network to find out the kind of people that are doing those kind of roles anyway, and can start and pave the way to, interesting conversations with people that can give you an insight into what those roles may well be like. And I think, the opportunity, if you get the opportunity to go and volunteer and try and experiment some of this kind of stuff, to see whether in actual fact it is what you want to do, I think is a really good route to follow as well. So it's getting out there, it's researching, it's being belligerent, resilient, looking up people, and picking up the phone and making it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's the power of kind of social media, isn't it? For good, is that, actually we probably could find people who are, the 6 degrees of separation. It's becoming a lot less now, isn't it? So we probably do have contacts who have those roles kind of that we like, which is always very
It's a small world. It's a small world.
Absolutely is. So is there anything that's particularly struck you about Jane's story that you kind of want to comment on?
Yeah, I think the video and in the interview that we saw with Jane, I think exemplified for me that you've got to take things in your stride when you find yourself in a situation of redundancy. Yes, it can be a shock, and I think the first thing to do is just take a step back, deep breaths, press pause almost on your life and take stock before launching into what comes next. And yes, it's a worrying period. It's unstable. It's you're thinking about finances and all the rest of it. But with a bit of patience, a proper bit of planning around what you do, you'll find that the tide can change very quickly, and you'll end up doing something far more positive than what you did before.
Yeah, absolutely. Get researching and use that time wisely, I guess is the other.
Absolutely. Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah.
Nick, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
That was Nick Hawley from Heads Up HR. For more advice, tips and support, including information about his redundancy support programme, head over to headsuphr.co.uk. Thank you for watching When Laid Off, Paid Off, Redundancy Success Stories. I hope you found some hope and inspiration in this episode. I'll see you next time.